Hello, welcome to Corinne's Picks. I'm your host, Daniel Lanzalota, and we have a guest that's already been here on the show, Iyaba Ibo Mandingo and Bagalaga. Who's Bagalaga? The name alone should entice you into a complete fantasy. Welcome back.
Brother, it's so good to be back with you again, man.
It just blows my mind. Bagalaga.
Hey, brother, good to be back with you again, man. How are you? How have you been?
I am so happy to see you. How much do I love you?
Love you back, brother.
We're gonna explore a topic that I believe is very important, especially in inner city environments, urban environments, and that is food and eating,
yes.
and culture,
yes,
and
one
farming,
of my favorite things is food.
Food deserts, and even brushing your teeth.
Yes,
And now tell me something about being where you're from, Antigua. Tell me what food you ate, how that formed your vision of life, and what was the importance of the food from your region?
Well, for me, to think about all the things now that are pre-manufactured and processed, we didn't have any of that. Like my mother and them, you know, I was 11, my mother was 30. My mother didn't eat any of those things, so you can see it now and they're the elders, how much it helps them when it comes to walking and movement. They don't have the pains and aches and pains that you hear.
No acids.
Right, so but that's what we grew up, what we call ground food. Ground food is all the stuff that grows out of the ground, you know, edo and cassava and you know, pumpkin and carrots and potatoes, all those kind of things.
High beta-carotenes,
yes,
right there,
yes.
boom, thank
and
you.
even the food, you know, one of my things I still do when I go home now is go to the market on a Saturday morning, and I'm talking, you getting the fish are still jumping. You know, I remember my grandmother would buy conch, we call conchs.
Right.
And they would still be jumping. When she bring them home, put them in the pot, they're still jumping. You know, so that's what I grew up on, live
Fresh,
food. Yes,
homemade.
Man. Yes.
Cooking at home,
Yes,
family, community.
yes.
All of the things that matter.
Yes, the love that comes into it from watching
Love is in the food. I mean, you could tell immediately if you go out to eat if there's love in the food.
Yes.
Process. No, plastics, and you and I know something about that now,
Absolutely.
right? The packaging alone is insane, and the leaching and the hormone disruptors and everything that surrounds all the craziness.
But that foundation for me was so important because, you know, like you would go to the store and buy a pound of rice, and when you went to the store, it was the big crocus bag, what they call burlap here.
Right.
The big crocus bag would be on the ground with the sugar or the rice or the beans in it, and the man would give you a scooper and the brown bag, and you put it in, and you put it on the scale.
Did you say a brown bag?
Yeah.
You mean something that can?
A plastic bag. The brown.
Was it plastic?
No, the brown paper bag.
It was paper. Yeah.
Yes, something that's of course that's degradable, and of course that would turn into the covers for your books.
Oh,
you know, and
you're killing me.
Yeah, and something for my grandmother to take down the 2 pounds of sugar and break it down into half a pound.
Fold the paper
Right.
and then slide the book cover in.
And that's what when you went to like the seasoning cupboard, that's what you would see.
Number
there
2
was brown
pencil.
bags with different things on them. You know what I'm saying? And so that foundation was really important for me when it came to understanding food, and being up here all these years in America. You know, from my boyhood to manhood, you start uploading those things. Without exaggeration, in the first 2 years, with the McDonald's food and everything, I put on 40 pounds.
Oh my God.
Easily, and all the things that were in, all the fruits and all the different candies and cakes that you had, because we weren't calling it that.
Tell me about sugarcane then. I mean, the sugarcane that's coming from the islands, from the Caribbean, you can chew on it, eat it, and you won't. I've heard that you cannot get dental issues from that.
No, that's
unprocessed sugar.
That's a different, you know, that's a whole different energy. Literally, you can taste the sunshine in that. Even as a boy, you know, I remember we would get brown sugar. You had to pay extra for white sugar and refined sugar.
Right. Hello.
And the sugar was so the first layer of manufacturing that my grandmother would have to clean it because it would still have, sometimes we would have all of the different trash in it from the first sort of step of the sugar, which is what they would make it, either molasses or that would be sent abroad, and those people would take it and refine it and put it in their cakes.
And then put it back.
Right, and send it back as white sugar with these grains that are like a third of the size of the grains you remember when you saw the brown sugar.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
Tell me about Bagalaga, and what is Bagalaga? How do the puppets play into educating and spreading the word about nutrition?
Wow.
How do you come to that? How do you spread that word?
Well, my grandfathers and my grandmother, they were both griots. They had abundance of stories. My grandfather would always say things like, you know, today I'll be an Englishman, and that whole day in the tailor shop, he'd talk like an Englishman. So that idea of going into character and using voices and he had different voices he would use, that stuck with me because I thought it was like living with, Charles Dickens. He was so
when you were in it, were you understanding what the power of that influence was?
Not at all.
As in tailoring, sewing, construction,
No.
making, doing, building.
I can still remember my friends coming outside the tailor shop with football in their hand, soccer balls and cricket bats and my grandfather going, you got work to do. And I would, I was wondering to myself, when am I going to be able to apply this? Because I didn't necessarily want to become a tailor. But then I start doing art. And I realize now that I use this method. Draw it, put it on material, trace it, cut it, put it together. Take something like a paperboy hat, cap, dissect it, put it back together with all kind of materials. So that process, people started asking me, what's your creative process? I realized between my grandmother, the seamstress, and him, the tailor, everything that I watched with the two of them.
Right.
Because my mother was 19 when she died, so I called him daddy and called my grandmother mother, just like my mother did.
Yeah, you make my imagination explode, right? So to me, someone says, how do you explain Iyaba? I'm like, because you do so many incredible things. Your art is just everywhere, so rich, diverse.
Thank you, brother.
Three-dimensional painting, sculptures, all in one package. Unbelievable. The puppets. How many puppets are there now?
There are now 12 in the family. Our latest is Iggy the iguana, because I work with a lot of, I think the children of the revolution.
How did you come to the iguana?
Well, I wanted something that I could interact with the kids even more, because after each performance of Puppet Village, I allowed them to come up and they play the drum and they always want to touch the puppets. Iggy is almost like a glove puppet, you put him on, so their little hands can go in there, and the fundamentals of operating a puppet are really easy for them to pick up on. So it just adds another layer to the sort of, what you said, the intrigue, because for me as an adult, I still go nuts when I see puppets.
I just turned my head and you had Bagalaga's mouth going up and down. I was like, wait a minute. And I lost my sense of reality. I was very intrigued by that he was so animated already.
Well, yes, but I'm here live and kicking.
I love him.
All I have to do is get this fella here holding on to me to do his job, and I can come and converse with you as much as you would like.
Now, this is such a beautiful thing, what you're doing with them, and hopefully we'll expand this into a bigger version of this at some point. But to have you back with my buddy, I think of him as my buddy, and nutrition, tell us about Ital.
Well, one of my uncles was a Rasta. And so I grew up being schooled by him and watching how he moved. And we replaced the beginning of words with I. Like when we say I and I, it means all of us. Instead of saying me, we think in an Ubuntu kind of way. I am because we are. So we think as a collective at all times. So we always mentioning everybody, and that sort of ingratiated in me. So all of the words, Einity is unity. Ital is natural. So natural food. And my uncle would say,
food, and where you're coming from is a whole different idea about what natural food is.
Here they call it organic, right? And you're like, wait a minute, if it's grown, it should be organic already because it was grown in the ground. But they do stuff to it. No, I'm talking Ital, natural food that comes out of the ground.
And have you experienced that in the United States to any degree, where you felt that it was really very close to what you were used to growing up?
Well, one of the things with urban communities, even in these type of communities where there are food deserts, which means they don't have any big major supermarkets that people can go in, you still will find the bodega or the Jamaican store, the Caribbean store, where you can go and get your edo and your cassava and all of those things that we use, and you could see them in their natural state, so it's not in a can, it's not been processed for you. You literally have to take it.
Or sometimes you see it in the Bronx on the side of the road with the sugar cane and coconuts
those things. If we could stick to that more, it would be really great, because the processed foods, it's really the fast lane to the ground.
Downhill.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I understand that profoundly. I was a chef for many years and taught culinary arts in Westport, Connecticut. Mm-hmm. That was a whole nother trip right there.
Oh, absolutely.
And once I did a party in Fairfield, Connecticut. There were 2 Sub-Zero refrigerators, which is like the granddaddy refrigerators of all. And I thought, one is a freezer. And it wasn't. One was just for soda. Wow. A refrigerator just for soda.
Yeah, that's like quarter water. That's one of the main things you see. Go ahead, Bagalag.
I mean,
well, you're here in these communities.
Tell me
you,
how will
find
you feel?
quarter waters. Quarter waters is like it looks like a grenade. So they're not even hiding the implications. It's a grenade and it has colored water in it. So you can get blue quarter water.
And
you
that's
can get
sweetened?
orange. Of course, it's all coloring and sweetening. And these are the things that our children have access to.
Are those they're just like little plastic bags?
Yes, they literally look like, no, they actually look like grenades. Like a little round grenade.
Because I've seen it in Haiti, they were these plastic things.
Yes.
And they just bite them and...
Same thing in West Africa.
And I kind of got freaked out by that because I thought, well, that can't be too hygienic.
Well, yes, but in 2015, Iyaba and I was in Nigeria. And the first time I saw that, I was blown away because you see people coming from the store and they're carrying like 2 handfuls of these things. And you're literally ripping them off and biting and drinking the water like that. And they call it nylon instead of plastic. And you're blown away because you know that is the worst thing in the world you can do to water that people are going to consume is put it inside of plastic. So never mind the plastic bottles that may take a little while to deteriorate and start to give it to you. That plastic bag is low-grade plastic to the nth degree, so you end up with that in your system right away. And the children are sucking on it.
I couldn't appreciate what you're saying more than ever right now because I just did a symposium workshop for 8 hours at NYU this past week. It was all about microplastics, and what you're saying is right in line with the situation. And when do these microplastics start to happen? And the moment you rip that open, you've created microplastics or tea bags now. The bags are plastic, and people are not realizing. You think you're drinking a natural brewed herb. Whatever
and what would happen when hot water? When hot water hits that, you might as well have a cup of plastic tea.
Hello.
You know what I mean? Or drink a bottle of plastic because the water is like the water is almost like the second thing that your system is getting is the water because the first thing it's getting is that bite you took to rip the plastic.
Hello.
Or the cover, turning the cover. That's instant breathing in all the dust that comes off of everything.
It was mind-boggling because this was very scientific symposium.
Yes,
and everyone had a PhD or a medical degree, and I was like, when does it start? And one professor said, the moment you break open the water bottle's cap. And I was like, whoa.
You know, for me, it's people, if people would just stop and think for a minute, you know what I'm saying? I say that ital eating is now called veganism. You know, just another ism to blow your brain, and everybody gets, you know, the guy that claims he's vegan and then he'll wear leather sneakers and a leather coat and his car has leather seats. And he think, I don't know, maybe he doesn't realize that that's cow skin. You know, so to me, it's just stopping for a second and thinking about what you're putting in your system. Everybody cheats. You know, a cheat day, actually most healthy, myself as an italist, I have a cheat day. And on my cheat day, I might have, you know, like an eggplant pizza. You know what I'm saying? I know now that after that, I have to get up the next day.
Does your cheat days change from week to week, or do you stick to
I always use Friday.
Friday. That's a good day to do
So the week is kind of knowing that Saturday, more than likely, I'll be off. And that means that, you know, I can go outside and run. I can go outside and do some power walking, push-ups, you know, anything, knee bends, anything to help the body process, you know, your cheat day is the whole goal. Is the idea of levels to it. You don't have to jump in and become a super italist or a super vegan in one day. You can just try, you know, instead of using these trans fat oils that they give you, that seem to be a good idea because they cost so little, you know, spend a couple more dollars and get a big thing of coconut oil. And you can use that actually, it burns slower, and it gives the food an amazing flavor. And you don't have to worry about your body trying to process it when you're done eating.
Moisturizer, hair,
all of those things. It's just a stop to me. It's the idea of cooling out and taking about going, first of all, the 3 meals a day is insanity.
I know, I don't eat breakfast myself.
You know, there's no way your body, you know, let's say you're a meat eater. Your body's going to take at least 24 hours to process that meat. So if you have a burger, or if you're having sausages for breakfast and a burger for lunch and then steak for dinner, that's 3 days of processing that you give your body. And the next morning you're going to get up and start again, and you're wondering why your stomach hurts, because that stuff, it has to go somewhere to sit to be processed.
Oh, yes.
And so the backlash of that is you know, all kind of skin conditions.
Is fasting part of the culture?
Because you know, as a Rasta, you don't need to eat in ital eating. You don't need to eat and if you want, let's say for example, you want to have more than one meal, then you can do things like fruits. You can do things like veggie, and then at dinner you can have one meal, you know, with your starch and your protein and all those things there. And instead of thinking that you need to have one big meal every day.
Is there an order to eating the food, like proteins first, carbohydrates, fats, or are you combining things all at
Definitely
once?
combining. You know, because food, the one thing I get from a lot of people when I talk to them about eating ital is it's boring. You know, so I will have them over and I will cook peas, you know, bean soup. And I will use all the ingredients and seasonings that you use when you're making oxtail. And when they come in the house, they smell, yeah, but I thought you didn't eat me that smell oxtail. And I don't say a word. I save it to them and they taste it, go, oh my goodness, this tastes like oxtail. And I say, yeah, because the same seasoning that they put on the cow meat, cow tail to make oxtail, I put in the beans. So it's really, again, the approach, you know, fried cauliflower in coconut oil.
No, you're making me hungry.
If you close your eyes and eat it, you think you're having chicken.
Right.
Because it's the texture. You know, mushrooms, they have shiitake mushrooms. They chew like chicken. They rip when you bite them, you pull apart like chicken flesh. And it's you realizing that your brain has been tricked into eating these things.
Yeah, I know.
And with our children even more, brother.
Very, very intimately.
Yes,
I gave up meat when I was 18.
Okay.
And probably one of the best decisions I ever made. And then I wound up living in France. And then slowly I started to bring in not beef, but other pork, for instance. I started eating pork and duck. And then my whole metabolism changed.
Yeah.
But I still don't eat red meat.
Well, the thing, I know you've been to Europe many more times than I, but I know for sure when I go there, you realize right away their freezers are smaller because they don't freeze their meat. If they're having chicken today, they go to the market and buy chicken for today.
Exactly.
And when will that chicken be finished? Today.
Exactly.
Tomorrow, if they want something else, they go and they buy it that day, and you buy it in portions instead of this kind of almost hoarding in your fridge. And you know there's no way that you can imagine that you can go and dig out a steak that's been in that freezer for 2-3 weeks and think you're going to get anything out of it that makes any sense.
I was going food shopping with a friend, and she wanted to get a cantaloupe, and I said, don't do that. And she said, why? I said, because it's not in season.
Yeah.
You have to eat in season. I mean, and she was like, why? I know, why? Because don't fall into that trap.
Yes.
It's not ready. It's not from here.
Yes.
You're going into a whole nother spectrum of, you can get political, you can get into spiritual, all around a cantaloupe. Mm-hmm. And I said, look at the cherries. They're not red. Mm-hmm. There were some I don't know what color that is. The cherry is not that color. Mm-hmm. They had cherries at the market. And I was like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
You know?
Again, this is how I grew up. You
exactly.
know, this is where we ate, you know, when something in the season, when you can consume it. Mango season is when we eat mangoes. Guinea season when we eat guineas.
Right.
You know, pineapple season when we eat pineapples.
Exactly.
Yes.
I grew up here in the Bronx. My grandmother had like a little mini farm in the backyard. Mm. And I would say to people, they'd say, where were you raised? I said, on a farm. And they'd go, where? I said, in the Bronx. and they were like, what do you mean? I said, my grandmother,
well, you know what, Daniel, brother Daniel? The truth is, again, with the whole stopping and thinking for a minute, everybody, I don't care what ethnicity you are, if you have the time to go back in your family far enough, you're going to find people who dug in the dirt to get their dinner. Everybody has that, and that is what this is about. It's going back to that, is realizing that your gut is where all of it happens. You know, people think it's brain and food and
that's the enteric nervous system.
Yes, your gut. If your gut is not okay, you're not okay.
That's right.
And I'm not talking about bellyache. I'm talking about enzymes. I'm talking about the coating on the wall of your stomach that eats away, and you start getting things like acidosis and burn. You know, all those kind of things when
leaky
you eat your
gut
food.
syndrome.
Yes,
all of
those things are all things that can be avoided if you're eating proper food and you're eating it at the proper time.
And we can go down the supplement sliding hill.
Brother.
That's like, why are you taking that stuff?
Protein.
Eat the proper food.
No, I don't like eggs, but then you go and have a 2-ton jug of protein, powdered protein, because you need this and that. I'm like, all of those things you can find naturally in legumes and all kind of different beans and there's so many vegetables you can go and get the same thing from, you know?
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, I had such a good upbringing. Once we were going down on the Bronx River Parkway, it was me and my grandmother and my father getting on at 233rd Street in Bronx River Road. And there was a chicken running around loose. She's screaming at my father in Italian to stop the car.
And get it.
And get the chicken. And my father
That's
pulls
dinner,
over.
man. That's
we're
dinner.
chasing a chicken on the Bronx River Parkway on the side of the road. And now we had to turn back. My grandmother went home,
Yeah.
and ate that chicken that night. And I was like, that's how,
Yeah, man.
fresh.
For me, when I'm
Clean.
again, cheat day, when I'm in Antigua, right? And I go out, I'm out in the country, and we go by somebody, and I see them catch the chicken and kill the chicken and make fried chicken. You think I'm not having a piece of that?
Oh,
of
you're
course
definitely
I'm having
having
a piece
that.
of that.
Yeah, of course.
That would be my
Because
cheat
that's
day.
it doesn't get better than
Yeah,
that.
no, that's the day I'll move up my cheat day, because whether it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, I'm going to have a piece. Because some of it, food is very nostalgic. That's the other part I think we don't connect with. It's very
It's a
psychological
language.
and it's very nostalgic, you know?
It's a language of love.
Yeah, man. Like
And you know immediately if someone loves cooking.
brother, please.
It's in the food. It's energy.
I'm working on a new novel now, and what triggered it was what we're talking about. Realizing that you smell something, you can go back to your childhood. My grandmother's been gone since 1978.
And most of your flavor comes through your
brother.
nose.
I smell.
Believe it or not.
I smell a mango.
Oh,
and
my
the
God.
first thing that comes to mind is her. I smell tamarind. First thing, because she would take the tamarind, take it out of the shell, and make a jelly out of it. And you talk about tamarind stew. Oh, brother, you're talking about lick off your fingers when you finish with that. Now, of course, you have the medical world telling us that those things have energies full of iron and all these things that we did. The things that I naturally did, we knew. My backyard was filled with soursop trees.
Oh,
And
my God.
when when you wet the bed as a boy, as a kid, my grandmother would give you the stem of the soursop to eat. Made you stop doing that. Now they're talking about how important it is for prostate health
And cancer.
and cancer.
Right.
You dig what I'm saying? All of the things that pineapple when it comes to, like, even here, and we did it in the Caribbean too.
The core is the most important.
When grandmother made the ham, and everybody thought she was decorating it with the pineapples and the cloves. No, that was to kill the worms in the food. You dig what I'm saying? Fundamental things we don't know. Fever grass, what they call lemongrass. That was the first thing my grandmother went for when a child was sick. You would get a cup of fever grass tea. And if she wanted to bring down your temperature, she would boil the soursop leaves for a little bit, put you in the bed, put the leaves on top of you, and put the blanket on top of that. And any fever that's inside of you is gone.
Wow.
Within hours, sweating you out. So those kind of things, when you see the medical world going back to the things that we do, we should think the same way. You know, whether you're Puerto Rican or Antiguan or Jamaican, and you were born here, when those things happen, you should at least inquire, call one of your elders and say, Mommy, what did you guys use for this? And what did you guys use for that? You know, in Africa, in South Africa, I remember meeting one of the brothers there. He talked about immunization for children.
Oh, boy.
Right? He said what they did, he's about in his 60s, a couple years older than I am. And he talked about remembering that they would take, you go to a place, it's been a while since you're there, the baby, you take the dirt and put it under the baby's tongue. And and the baby could eat anything on that land after that.
No allergies.
No, nothing. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yes, I do.
Those are original, and it's not black, it's not African. Every culture knows that. You know what I'm saying?
I would tend to agree with you.
Yeah, every culture
without
knows.
question.
So it's to go back to, food, and eating healthy can be fun food as well.
Right.
You know what I mean? It doesn't have to always be the
And I don't think it has to be expensive either.
at all. All of those things are
If
propaganda.
you know what you're doing and you're
Yes,
looking
brother.
and seeing what's
Yes,
available.
brother. Yes, and what you can do, man, with never mind mushrooms, but with beans. The thing you could do with beans,
Proteins.
when it comes to variety, curry, studong, you can make cakes out of beans. You know what I'm saying? You could use sweet potato as your holding mechanism,
binder.
and as your binder, and make a cake.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And there will not be any flour, whether it's
Avocados.
refined or wheat. You don't have to use any of those kind of things at all.
That's
some of the best.
in the vegan realm of
well, some of the
food.
best pudding I've ever had is avocado, what we call pear.
Well, cacao.
Yeah, you mix that up, you
Is
stir them up.
cacao in where you're from?
Absolute.
Wow.
The other part is fruit. The knowing the seasons. Every season, like to this day, I know when we go to Eastern Parkway for Labor Day, it's right as plum season is finishing in the Caribbean.
Oh, I hear you.
So you have the most delicious plum. Some in Antigua we call them golden apple. In Jamaica and other parts we call them June plum. But so many varieties of plum, and that I would go down for the calypso, but I would go down for the plums even more. The first thing we did the minute we landed, came up out the subway, was I'm looking for the plum, man. And I'm buying enough plums so I can eat them all day long. And if those things, man, they just, the way they naturally, you can feel the energy going back into you. To eat sugar cane is to bite the sun. To eat a mango that you stand up as a boy. I remember as a boy you could stand up and tell by how it's swirling. when a mango is going to drop, and you just stand and catch it. You don't even got to wash it, but you just
Oh
go
my
right
God,
in.
you're bringing
and
back
we're
a lot
talking
of
eating
memories for
the
me.
skin and everything.
Yeah, I had this with myself growing up in the Bronx. We had a Basque pear tree, which had, I don't know, 500-600 pears on it at once. And that's now gone. But I remember just eating pears till I turned blue
Brother,
in the
please,
face.
man. We lived there. My brother and I, we would live in the mango tree, mango season. Live in the guinea season. Literally, you walk up, you climb up the tree, you find a branch you sat in, you claimed already from the last time we were up in the tree. That's my sit down. And you sit there and you
what you're
just eat,
saying to
man.
me is such an important, you're just a wealth of information and storytelling on how this gets conveyed through the puppets is very important. So it's just magical to listen to you.
Oh, please. And for me, again, I say the children of the revolution, so realizing that this was my porthole into their little imaginations, I was like, okay, Puppet Village. Jim Henson, one of my heroes. Let's bring what Jim Henson did to another place now for another set of people. So for me, the puppet gives them an opportunity to engage them right at the level of their imagination and get to talk to them about stuff like that they can now go home and tell mom, like, Mom, how come we can't use coconut oil to fry instead of the trans fat? How come we can't have baked chicken tonight instead of fried chicken? You know, things that make it healthy. And when you give it to the child, they can tell it to the parent much easier than you can. You know?
I hear you.
Yeah, man.
Okay. So we're going to wrap this up now. Just tell me how we can find you, how can we find the puppets, and how can we further this along to the next level?
Well, you can find me online. Bagalaga, you tell. Well, you can find us online. Any one of the social media hubs, Facebook to Instagram to Tickety-Tackety to all of them. We're on everywhere we can get in reach to you. Iyaba Ibo Mandingo. I have a very unique name. So you type in Mandingo, you will see me
So
there.
I know that.
Yes, and we would love to come to your school. We'd love to come to your community center and really start to engage our children on a new way of looking at food.
Thank you.
Yes, my brother.
That is just amazing. Wow. So that kind of wraps it up. Bagalaga, it was good to see you again.
Good to see you. I'll be back again, brother.
It's always great to have you guys together, and hopefully there'll be many more episodes with the whole entire family and Puppet Village and having 5 or 6 puppeteers doing the whole thing.
Yes, I look forward.
Thank you so much, Iyaba.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you, Bagalaga.
Thank you.
Thank you.